It was the county fair day, or as I like to call it, my winning day. The air was filled with the sweet scent of popcorn, and my eyes were locked on a massive plushy bear at the dart stall. Right next to me, a big guy kept throwing darts and missing, making his girlfriend furious. Ignoring them, I picked up the last dart off the table, aimed carefully, and popped the final balloon. It was a perfect bullseye. The owner handed me the bear, but a large hand suddenly yanked it away. I pulled it back, telling him firmly that I had won it fair and square. We yanked the bear back and forth until the big guy mockingly called me a hobbit. Offended, I gave it one massive pull, ripping it completely in half. His girlfriend burst into tears, and the guy flew into a rage, rushing straight toward me. Before I could think, my instincts took over, and I threw a punch that sent him flying through the air. On the way home, the atmosphere inside the car was tense as rain tapped the windshield. My mom scolded me with an angry face, asking how many times she had to tell me that a girl shouldn't raise her fists like that. I argued that it was self-defense because he was going to hit me. My mom snapped, sighing that I was just like my father. Annoyed, I asked why she was even bringing him up since he had left us years ago. The thought of him made my blood boil, so I turned to the window to avoid her disappointed look. When we arrived home, the door was wide open, and a chilling feeling crept up my spine. I ran inside just as the storm knocked out the power, plunging the room into darkness. Through the dim light, I saw several black shadows standing in our living room. I took a fearless stance, pointed a long umbrella at them like a weapon, and demanded to know who they were. Suddenly, a booming voice commanded everyone to hail their new leader, leaving me completely startled. The lights flickered back on, and I was stunned to see a group of tough-looking men bowing to me. The leader walked toward me with a smile, introducing himself as Nick Mason, my dad's right-hand man. I asked him if my dad had sent them, and he nodded, explaining that from this day forward, I would become the new leader of the X organization on my father's behalf. I gasped, completely shocked. I told him he had to be kidding, pointing out that my father hadn't cared about us for years, and now he wanted me to take over a scary-looking crew. Nick asked me not to misunderstand, explaining that my dad had founded the organization to help local people and fight for justice. But things had taken a horrible turn, and he had gone to jail for a little while. Hearing this, my mom cried out that he was in jail and began to faint, though one of the men quickly helped her onto a chair. I asked sarcastically why he was in jail if he was fighting for justice. Nick placed a hand on my shoulder, looking me straight in the eyes. He explained that my father had put the safety of the seaport first and had fallen into an enemy trap, adding that I would understand him better if I accepted his wish to become their leader. Later in my room, as much as I hated to admit it, I deeply missed my dad. I opened my childhood photo album, sadly, recalling how he once promised to skip work for my birthday, but then disappeared without a word for the past 6 years. Seeing me so sad, my mom walked in, placed a warm hand on my shoulder, and told me she had something for me. She handed me old letters and a plushie bear I had begged my dad to buy years ago. She confessed she had hidden them because she was furious at him for constantly risking his life. Realizing my dad still cared about me, I told my mom decisively that I had made up my mind to take over and hoped she would support me. She gave me an understanding smile and nodded. Soon after, we took a long journey to the seaport where the X organization was secretly operating. We walked through a lively market filled with the scent of salty seafood, fresh fruits, and sweet cakes, finally stopping at a massive fish shop. I stared at the chaotic surroundings, wondering how an organization could have a secret base in such a crowded place. Nick leaned in and whispered that the most dangerous place was the safest one. I remembered my dad saying the exact same thing when I was a kid. This definitely had to be his crazy idea. Nick led me into a mysterious, classic-style office hidden at the back of the store. I looked around, realizing this was where my dad used to work, and even saw his old hat still sitting there. Nick tapped a ruler against a board full of clues and announced it was time to get to work. He explained seriously that thieves had been breaking into stores every night, causing panic in town, and we needed to solve it quickly. I skeptically asked if that wasn't the police's job. Nick sighed, saying if the police were actually capable, we wouldn't be needed, which was why my father maintained the organization. He then told me he had arranged my housing and enrolled me in a local school, strictly warning me to keep my true identity a top secret. For the next few days, Uncle Nick dragged me to the port at 5 o'clock every morning, promising to teach me about the thieves. Instead, he just spent the whole time bidding at the fish auctions. Feeling useless, I wandered off to talk to the fishmongers about the recent burglary. Suddenly, a guy with a cap covering his face bumped hard into me and tried to walk away. Angrily, I grabbed his wrist and noticed a silver bracelet with the letter D. I snapped at him, telling him he had a nice bracelet but needed to learn how to apologize. The guy didn't turn around and tried to break free, but Nick quickly pulled my arm back, warning me that I was making a scene. The stranger disappeared into the crowd, leaving everyone staring at me. I calmed myself down, deciding I should just act like a normal bored schoolgirl. However, waking up so early left me too exhausted to study. One morning, I was sleeping on the outdoor stairs at school when a harsh noise woke me up. A group of gangsters was teasing a boy. I growled at them, yelling that I was trying to catch some sleep, but one bully snapped back, telling me to shut up and calling me a loser. Amused by their arrogance, I grabbed a nearby mop, executed a few quick moves, and knocked the entire gang down in seconds. The boy just stood there, completely shell-shocked. Seeing him frozen, I grabbed the flabbergasted nerd by the hand and dragged him away since he was too terrified to run for his life. Ever since that day, the little guy, whose name was Killian, followed me everywhere like a shadow. In the corridors, he babbled about how he never imagined a small person like me could have such crazy strength. In the canteen, he kept calling me his angel. And in the classroom, he begged to be friends. Having no peace, I finally hid inside the sports facility room to escape him. Suddenly, Uncle Nick called, anxiously telling me that a local jewelry shop had just been burglarized and asking for help. I told him I would head straight to headquarters to set up a plan and that he could count on me. I hung up, but the sound of a ball rolling made me turn around. Killian was standing right there, completely shocked to his core. He had heard everything. I gave him a threatening glare, warning him darkly that if he uttered a word, he wouldn't live to see another day. Trembling and stammering in fear, Killian quickly offered to help, pleading that he knew the town like the back of his hand. I agreed that we could be friends, or at least associates, as long as he kept completely quiet. Killian just nodded rapidly, utterly terrified. Right after school, Killian and I rushed straight to the burgled shop. While looking around the front, a sudden glint caught my eye among the broken glass. It was a shiny silver bracelet with the letter D. My mind instantly flashed back to the guy at the seaport. It had to belong to the thieves. Just as I reached down to pick it up, Killian grabbed my hand, shivering as he pointed ahead. I looked up and saw one of the gangsters who had bullied him, telling his gang boss that I was the one who had attacked them. The gangster suddenly charged at me. I tried to dodge but lost my footing and toppled backward. Just before I hit the ground, a strong arm caught my waist while another hand effortlessly blocked the punch. Looking up, I almost fainted from his absolute handsomeness. What a total hunk. I immediately wrapped my arms around him, pretending to be a fragile damsel in distress. I gasped dramatically, calling him my hero and pleading for help because I was so scared. Killian just stood there, his eye twitching in sheer disbelief at my sudden acting routine. The stranger glared at the gang, warning them in a low, cold growl that if they messed with his friend again, they would be dead meat. He twisted the boss's hand so hard the guy's arm shook before harshly shoving him away and ordering them to get lost. The terrified gangsters instantly ran for their lives. The guy turned to check if I was okay, then calmly walked away. Killian told me his name was Frank, a cold and reserved senior at our school. He was definitely my type. Snapping out of my daydream, I hurried back to the broken window, but I was completely confused to find the silver bracelet had vanished. The next day at the school canteen, Killian and I sat face to face having lunch while everyone around us anxiously discussed the crime. I sighed, wondering aloud when this nonsense would stop and who the next target would be. Killian showed off his intelligence, explaining that the victims were always the big shots in town, and the crimes only happened on days the police weren't patrolling. Suddenly, Frank appeared out of nowhere and sat right next to me. He cut in, suggesting that Graham's jewelry shop and Holden's boutique could be the next target. I agreed that it made sense. But then I startled, turning to him in a gentle, girly voice, whispering that his presence made me feel so much safer. Killian looked incredibly jealous, muttering that it would probably be Holden's since Graham had a new security system, before sharply whispering in my ear to stop fiddling with my hair. Frank smiled and rubbed my head, praising the good observation. He added that the police weren't patrolling the port tonight, so the thieves might make a move, asking me to stay safely inside like a sweetie. My face blushed bright red, but internally, I knew his sweetie was going to stake out Holden's shop and catch them red-handed tonight. That night, Killian, Nick, the X-Organization crew, and I all hid in a dark, deserted alley near Holden's boutique, waiting for the thief. An hour slowly passed in complete silence. Suddenly, Nick's phone rang. He listened for a sec, then angrily informed us that Graham's jewelry shop had just been robbed. The thieves had broken right through the new security system and taken everything. Nick snapped at me for acting impulsively without real evidence, but something felt incredibly sketchy. Holden's store was far more vulnerable, making it feel like the thieves somehow knew exactly where we were waiting to ambush them. I narrowed my eyes, looking over at Killian suspiciously. A few days later at dusk, while I was patrolling the shopping street, Killian called to inform me that a suspicious masked man was sneaking around the pearl shop. I immediately dashed there, arriving right as the guy was breaking the lock. In the blink of an eye, I delivered a powerful kick that knocked him to the ground and pinned his hand. Suddenly, Frank's voice echoed from nearby, frantically asking if I was okay. I startled, looking up to see Frank Frank running toward me, which caused me to loosen my grip. The thief fiercely jumped up, shoving me backward onto the ground, and instantly fled. I pointed in the direction he ran, screaming at them to catch him. Frank and Killian both darted past me, chasing the guy into the twilight. I waited for them down at the quiet harbor, but only a panting Killian returned. He told me apologetically that there was something highly fishy about Frank, and that he believed Frank was actually on the thief's side. I snapped back in irritation, asking if he was just jealous and demanding to know how I could be sure he wasn't the spy himself. Killian looked completely shocked, asking what I meant. I mocked him, pointing out that he had been acting suspicious from the start by never leaving me alone. I reminded him how he had listened in on my conversation with Nick, and how he had convinced me that Holden's shop would be targeted, asking why he was suddenly blaming Frank now. Angry and jealous, Killian sternly argued that I was just too wrapped up in that jerk, explaining that he saw Frank purposefully let the thief go by suddenly stopping right in front of him to cause a crash so the criminal could escape. I stammered in denial, saying it couldn't be true since Frank was always there to help me. Killian grew furious, yelling that he was the one who always had my back while I only saw that fraud as a hero, before telling me to just forget it and walking away. I called out to him to wait, reaching my hand out, but he was already gone. I closed my eyes and held my head, feeling deeply conflicted and having absolutely no idea who to trust. Just then, a text from Frank popped up, asking me to meet him at the Meteor camping site because he had something incredibly important to tell me. I decided it was time to confront him and get the truth. I rushed to the campsite as fast as I could, but the place looked completely deserted. Confused, I noticed a single tent glowing with light, showing a shadow moving inside. Suddenly, the tent flap flew open and the shadow bolted toward me. Frank quickly held up his hands, telling me to calm down because it was just him. I looked around, realizing he had set up the entire place with romantic decorations for me. Frank suddenly grabbed my hand, confessing that he had fallen head over heels for me. He asked if I would be his girlfriend, suggesting that we could be a power couple with the backing of my ex-organization and his Darkwalkers clan. My heart froze. I violently flung his hand away, demanding to know how he knew I was related to the ex-organization. Frank gave me an evil smirk, laughing as he bragged that he had been watching me since my first day at the fish market with old Nick. He raised his wrist to show off the silver bracelet with the letter D, taunting that I had ticking almost caught him that time. Furious, I lashed out, calling him a shameless, rotten, stinking skunk, and cursed myself for trusting him over Killian. Frank stepped closer with a manipulative expression, claiming it wasn't his fault I had fallen for him and betrayed my best friend. He added that we were alike and should team up, reaching out to touch my face. I snapped. I quickly grabbed his wrist, cold face, and tightening my grip with each word. I told him that enough was enough, and I was never going to team up with a dirtbag like him. I flipped him right over my shoulder, throwing him hard onto the ground. Stunned in fear, Frank stammered before loudly yelling for his guys to take me. His minions poured out from the other tents, surrounding me and tightening the seed. My confidence faltered as Frank asked sarcastically who the boss was now. I realized I had walked right into a trap. The punks moved in with a rope, ready to tie me up, but at that moment, a car engine roared nearby. I squinted and saw Killian jumping out, leading Uncle Nick and the ex-organization. Killian rushed forward so fast he accidentally hit Frank without even noticing, running straight to check if I was all right or hurt anywhere. I shook my head, deeply touched, and admitted I thought he was mad at me. Killian shyly scratched his head, murmuring that he was a little bit, but he couldn't let me do this alone, so he went to Uncle Nick. Behind him, Nick and the team quickly seized all the thieves and Frank, dragging them off to face the law. Later, as Frank and his dad were questioned in the interrogation room, the truth came out. It turned out my dad was about to expose the Darkwalkers clan when they framed him for causing injury to put him behind bars. Since I became the new leader, Frank had been trying to seduce me just to manipulate our organization from the inside. Finally, my dad was found innocent and released from prison. Mom and I welcomed him home with open arms, holding him close after all those long years. Tears streamed down his face as he told us how deeply sorry he was for leaving us behind, admitting he had been terrified of putting us in danger. Crying, I reassured him that it was all right and acknowledged that he must have had an incredibly hard time too. I apologized for taking so long to realize how proud I was of him, crying that I had missed him so much. Dad was super impressed with everything we had accomplished for the organization. He even decided to let me continue to be the leader, promising to support me and teach me all of his tricks along the way. On a beautiful evening at the port, Killian and I were strolling together, watching the golden sunset dip below the horizon. Looking at the peaceful water, I knew for sure that everything would turn out completely okay, especially with this guy right by my side. I turned to look at him, and Killian, trying to act all cool, asked if he had done a good job proving himself to his lady boss, adding that the vice leader position seemed to suit him quite well. I chuckled softly and agreed that he definitely deserved a promotion, teasingly asking how the title of vice leader and boyfriend sounded to him. We just looked at each other, blushing and smiling shyly as the sun went down.